This PD video is about 35 minutes long. I recommend you having 45 minutes to an hour to do this PD if you want to go through it all, because I try to pause so you can do some activities in between here. Otherwise, you can also skip kind of the last section of it and prioritize just the first section where I show you how to build a lesson and then test it out. There's a short introduction before I start the PD. So in this PD video, I will go through a Curipod PD on immersive reading and writing. I will cover how to build an immersive reading and writing lesson, how it works in your classroom, how your students will react to it. I will cover how to customize them, how to use them with bilingual learners, how to do classroom management. The way I will do this is I will talk you through the PD. I will do the PD, and then I will tell you when you can pause the video and do some activities. I will also tell you how you can help answer questions that come up when you do those activities. So that's how I will work my way through the PD. So I will be being silent for a little while, and then it starts in a few seconds. So good luck. Hi everyone, and welcome to this PD session on Curipod Immersive Reading and Writing. Thank you so much to, I'm not sure if you're there or there, for setting this up and helping me host this PD session. My name is Eric. I'm one of the co-founders of Curipod. Today, I will help you through how to use Curipod to create immersive reading and writing experiences for your students. Usually I start these PD sessions just telling you a little bit about how Curipod came to be. So I usually start my own story with growing up. I usually say I was born with a Hermione reflex. You've probably seen it in the classroom. It means if someone asks a question, my hand tends to do this. I loved school. I had such a great time. I really got to experience kind of the best side of the educational system. And after school, I got a scholarship and moved to Mozambique, where I started working as a teacher. And I had a great time there. And after a while, I wanted some change, and I got back to Norway and I started studying economics. And first year in uni, I met this guy called Jens. For those of you who haven't met him before, he is the CEO of Curipod, but he was just the smartest person I've ever met. So my natural instinct was, I'm going to try to work closely with him. And I'm very happy I did, because I had never had more fun in my life while doing Curipod. But we worked very closely together during university. And at the end of 3 years of that collaboration, he told me that he had actually dropped out of high school. I never knew that. And I got extremely interested in why. Growing up with this kid, I kind of never reflected on why people drop out of school, and why could he, he was smart, why did he drop out? And I got very curious, and he was probably what you would call actively disengaged. And we started talking, and we both had some very strong opinions and passion for education. So we founded Curipod. And a little bit of context here. So we wanted to build a tool that helped you spread curiosity in the classroom. That was the baseline. That's where the name Curipod comes from. It comes from curiosity. But so we started out with that. We started out building activity types that we learned really engaged the students. It could be answering questions by text or drawing. We drew upon some of kind of the Scandinavian pedagogical frameworks that are really well created into kind of making everyone create an opinion. But what we also did was we founded Curipod during COVID. And what we noticed during COVID was that more and more edtech tools tend to build out this kind of self-paced tools where students work on their own pace with their own type of activities. And in COVID, this was a must, right? Because not everyone could join a Skype lesson. But what we've seen is that this is used more and more in the classrooms as well after COVID. And we very much understand it, because it solved one of kind of the biggest problem a teacher has in the classroom: differentiation, customize every learning journey. But what we also see is that it takes away kind of the classroom feeling, because everyone is working on their own. We're not working together. And we truly believe that the most important skills you learn through your education is the skills you learn together with other people in the classroom. That's also the reason why we think AI will never come close to challenging kind of that current teacher teaching a class model, because it's not all about learning facts. It's about learning how to collaborate, be creative, be critical thinkers. And this is something you do together as a group. So that also became a very important part of Curipod. Was we wanted to build something that was classroom based. We still wanted to. It was still incredibly important that it was engaging to all your learners in the classroom. That's where me and Jens come from. We have very different experiences of the education system, so it needed to be engaging everyone, but we wanted it to be something your class does together. And we wanted you to do one activity in Curipod. Let's say it takes 5 minutes. That should give you 15 minutes of in-classroom discussion, because that's when the relearning happens. Like, so tech for less tech, if you see where I'm going here, to use technology for what it's really good at, reducing the barrier of participating, having everyone's right, but then also make sure you get those classroom discussions. So that's where Curipod comes. And in this PD, I will cover our immersive reading and writing experiences. And what we mean by this is we try to create some really immersive reading and writing experiences where the students are internally motivated to write, where there are clear goals and outcomes tied up to a context they really care about. Try to simulate either real life scenarios or creative scenarios. I will go through all of this later, so I'll just dive into the PD here. So when I'm inside Curipod here, I can see all of these, what we call customizable lessons. And I will go into depth about how to use them later on, but I truly believe that the best way of trying to understand what we're doing here in Curipod is just to see how Curipod works in your classroom. So let's assume I have chosen the Monsters and Magic argumentative quick write. So I'll show you how to build this one later, but now I've actually built one here. And now we come into the Curipod lesson designer. And here we have a full lesson built out. So it starts out with, and I will show you later on how to build this, but I just really want you to experience how does the student experience this lesson first. So we first have some teacher slides here, just showing us the lesson overview, SEEK standards and the Common Core standards it covers, the feedback rubric it will be using, and then we go into the lesson. So without further ado, I will just start this lesson and have you see how it works. So to start the lesson as a teacher, I'll click present. What I also do is that I need some students to join this lesson. So I'll click down here, click here to let your students join. And then in Curipod, as in, for instance, Kahoot, they can join by either scanning a QR code or go to Curio.live and enter this PIN code, or I can just copy out this link and send them to my students in Google Classroom, for instance. So just so we understand it here, this is where I am the teacher. So in this tab, I will be the teacher. And in this tab, I will show you the student experience. So I'll write in my name, but you will still notice that the students all get assigned a random nickname, and the students can only see each other random nicknames, but you as a teacher can see their real name. And I'll also show you this later on in the video, how to see all the real names, how to moderate, how to do all this classroom management within Curipod. So now I'm ready to start my lesson. And the lesson starts with an immersive story. And I'll show you how to build this later. This is about the dragon. And you can choose whether you want to narrate this story, you want the student to take turns reading it, or you want them to read it on their own. But we find ourselves in a magical world searching for hidden treasure, and suddenly a fearsome dragon appears in your path. And then we use AI to create this really immersive imagery. The dragon is enormous, with scales that shimmer like emeralds and eyes that glow like molten gold. It breathes fire and has powerful wings that can create a gust of wind. So here it sets the story for the students. And then we come to a reading part where the students get to read about the strengths and weaknesses of the monster. So you can start reading this here. And then on the next slide, they can start reading about the spells they as adventurers know. And then they get to see the rubric that we use for these quick writes. And then at the end, we come to the activity slide here. So you see that it's an activity slide because it has this play button down here and the timer. I can adjust the time if I want to. And they need to argue which spell they will use to defeat the monster. Write one paragraph. So this is when the quick write immersive reading and writing happens. So I'll start this activity and I'll move over to my student device here. So now I'm the student. And you will see that the student has two tabs. They have the focus tab. This is where they can only see their writing assignment. And then they have their slides tab. They still have their writing assignment here, but now they can also navigate the teacher slide. So note that the teacher was on slide 13, which means that we don't allow the students to go further than that. So they can't see anything you as a teacher have showed yet, but they can navigate backwards. And what they then can do is that they can start reading about the strengths and weaknesses. So I'll read that the dragon has a soft underbelly. It's vulnerable to water-based attacks and can easily be distracted by shiny objects. So I can also read about the spells here, and I see that I can learn about Aqua Blast. This seems maybe to be something with water. Shimmering Lure, which creates a dazzling light, shown with shiny reflective objects. So now I start to kind of reading this text, I started piecing them together, and I can start writing my assignment. I will use Shimmering Lure to distract the dragon. This will work because it's easily distracted by shiny objects. Then I will defeat it with Aqua Blast. So notice here that I do argue why the Shimmering Lure will work, but I have not argued why Aqua Blast will work. So let's see if our feedback rubric will pick this up. But this is kind of the idea of our immersive reading and writing lessons. This is the essential of it. We create stories where the students have to be immersed in the stories, and then they have to make inferences from the text they read to solve the tasks. So this one combines inferencing from text with argumentative writing. We have to infer from the text about the dragon and about the spells, how we could defeat it, and then we have to make strong arguments for that. When I'm ready, I can click submit. If I now go back to the teacher screen, I can click stop. And then I can click give feedback. And what happens when we click give feedback is that our AI will read all the answers from the students and compare them to the rubric I introduced earlier, and it will give feedback. So if I click on the student answer here, the student has gotten feedback. If we move over to the student device, we see that the students can also access their own feedback. So here it gives me feedback on my thesis and claim. Your thesis is clear. Evidence and support, listening, language. I get a total score 8. Outcome, I escape the monster, but I do not defeat it. And this is what the student gets as well. The student can also copy out the feedback here if they want to save it or use it in a later activity. And then if we do move on, we do a poll activity where we get to vote for how we did. So if I go back to the student here, so I was able to escape. And if we go back to the teacher screen now, we will see how the class did. This is the whole part of Curipod. We try to bring the class together. So how can we continue to improve as a class? And we see that these types of immersive reading and writing experience, it makes it so motivating for the students to read and write because they want to achieve kind of the goal of the lesson. So often do it over and over again, and it's such a great way to practice their writing skills. So now let's take a look at how I built this lesson. So I'll exit my lesson here, and I'll go to the Curipod home screen. So when we come into the Curipod home screen, we see all of these, what we call customizable lessons. And what is a customizable lesson in Curipod? Well, a customizable lesson is a lesson template that is built by our curriculum designers. So they're built by expert curriculum designers to be aligned to your standards, but then you can customize it using AI. Previously in Curipod, this was called a generator, but we've moved away from that name because the generator made the impression that the lesson in itself was built by AI. it is not. The pedagogical flow of the lesson, that is built by our lesson designers, but we help you customize it with AI. So this is the Monsters and Magic one. We can click on this and we can test out kind of what I just did. So this is how I built the lesson I just showed you. And when we click on it, we can read about it. So we can read that it's a part of the Curipod Quick Writes. We can read about how it works and the learning objective. It's estimated to take around 20 minutes. How the feedback is aligned with standards and what standards it covers. And as I said, we can customize it. So with this one, we can customize the monster type. So I can say I want us to fight the cookie monster, for instance. And then I can set my grade level, and then I can click customize now. Now it has built out the lesson. I can preview it here if I want. I can go directly to present, or I can click edit. When you click edit, you come into the Curipod editor. And here you can do almost everything you can in other slide tools. You can add more text. You can edit the text in here. You can add images or videos, build your own slides. But if we look through this here, we get, as I showed you briefly previously, the lesson overview, with the standards covered and the writing rubric, and then the lesson starts. But now the story is different. It is about a cookie monster. And it's a new monster that has popped up here. But as you see, we still read about its strengths and weaknesses, and we still have a selection of spells here, and we have to argue how to defeat it. So this is why we call it that you customized it with AI, because the pedagogical flow of the lesson that is made by our curriculum designers, that is the same for every Monsters and Magic lesson. It's about creating this immersive story where the students have their context is that they need to defeat a monster, and they need to read about its strengths and weaknesses and spells and make inferences from those texts in their argumentation to defeat it. But you can customize it to change the story. It gives you a million variations. You can take into account your students' interests. If you want, you can actually customize it together with your students, so you can have the students be a part of selecting the monsters, for example. And if we go back to the home page, we will see that we have a lot of different customizable lessons here. So you can filter on write more, reading comprehension, subject, grades, but since this PD is about not all of these are about immersive reading and writing. If we go to vocabulary and grammar, for instance, the vocabulary meme battle, it's a fantastic customizable lesson to practice vocabulary, but it's not about immersive reading and writing experiences. So I'll make sure you have access to a link of collection of immersive reading and writing experiences. Here we have a few of them. Leaving Earth, information and writing, base camp success. This is just fantastic. You customize. So the story is that you are a NASA expedition going to explore another planet. And for customizing, you can select what type of planet you will be visiting. And then you will write different assignments back to Earth telling about the planet you're visiting. It's a really cool experience. Or the mystery mission and for the perpetrator, where you set a location, and in this location we create this crime that has taken place with witnesses and suspects, and the student has to interview them, and at the end they want to try to solve the crime who has done this. It's kind of like a clue in your clue game in your classroom. And then we have persuasive writing, convince the AI to buy, co-write a fairy tale, convince the evil AI ruler. It's one of my favorites, where you give it a topic that the students care about and they can argue about, like phones in the classroom. And it creates this story where we're in the future and an evil AI overlord has taken over the world, and your students are the ruling council of the AI, and they have to convince him whether or not to ban phones in the classroom. So I'll make sure you have access to this link, and I think this is my first part of my PD. So I hope I showed you how this looks in your classroom and the variety of immersive reading and writing experience you can build yourselves, how to build it. So what I want to challenge you to do now is to try to build your own. So I want you to log into Curipod and find one of these immersive reading and writing lessons with a link. Hopefully someone can send this out. And then I want you to customize it And then I want you to go into groups of maybe 3 or 4 and start the lesson and try it out. Try out the writing assignments, get some feedback, see how it works, really play around with it. And when you're ready to move on, you can just, when you're wanting to start this, you pause my video. When you're ready to move on, you play the video. And after this, I will show you some more like niche features in Curipod, classroom management tools, translate for bilingual students, some of these other features. So before I start you with your activity, I also want you just to know that there is a chat icon down here. If you click on the chat, you will see that all US business hours you can access Curipod. And it's our full team in here. We're 10 people in Curipod. Everyone takes turn here, so we answer very fast. So if you get any questions during your PD, you can just write them in here and we'll be straight back to you. So again, go into Curipod, customize one immersive reading and writing experience, and test it with a group of 3 to 4 teachers. And then when you're ready to move on, just play the video. Best of luck. Okay, I'll start again. So I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. I hope you got to test it out. And I hope maybe we could answer some of your questions if you had them. Otherwise, shame on my team and myself. But now I wanted to show you some really like niche, like detailed features you can use while using Curipod. So first, if you now try them, I hope you kind of see what I mean by immersive reading and writing. That these works because they create this immersive context where the students have very clear outcomes and goals of the lesson, and where they are put into some type of story, either a real life type of story or a fictional type of story, and they have to make actions to change the outcome of the story. That's what we really hope to create with these. Now I wanted to show you some other features that is nice to know about. So first, let's take a look at how you can use some classroom management tools inside Curipod. So if I go to my lessons here, lesson I use, and I can edit it, and let's present this lesson as we did previously. And as we did previously, just because I need an example, I will create a student that joins here. I'll put in my name, and then I'll move back to the teacher screen, and we are ready. So let's move on here and go to the first activity. I'll start this activity, and as we see at the student screen, it starts here. The student can read the slides. The student can see the writing assignment here. But if we now move back to the teacher screen, let's say you suddenly get distracted, or you get something important you want to announce to your teachers. Maybe you had someone come into your classroom with a note or something, then you want to pause the activity. So you can do this by clicking freeze. So freeze is basically digital 1, 2, 3 eyes on me. It does 2 things. First of all, it freezes the activity. The timer doesn't go down anymore. But also, if we go over to the student screen, we see that I can no longer, as a student, see the slides or the activity. I can't write anything. We try to take away all the distractions from the students, so it's all eyes on you when you use the freeze button. I'll move back to the teacher screen, and when you want to start this again, you can either click play or just unfreeze. So another classroom management feature that is nice to know about is that you can click add 30 seconds here if you want to increase the time. So if you see that you want to give your students some more time, this is a great way of doing it. But the last and most important classroom management feature I wanted to show you is the moderation tool. So if you click on the settings wheel, you can click open moderation. Then it opens a new window here where you can start to moderate your students. So if you click OK, here I can, let's expand this a bit. So I can see that Eric has not yet started to write. If I go back into the student view and write something, this is my answer. And we then open the moderation tool again, we can see that Eric is writing. If Eric is writing something inappropriate, we can go over to him, or I can dismiss it. If he needs some help, I can help him out with this. If it's a drawing activity, then we will also see the drawings live. So The moderation tool is just a great way for you to have full control of what's happening on your student's device. But if we go back, now I'm back at the teacher screen here. So as you saw, the moderation tool opened in another tab, but you might want to have this on another device. Then you click on the settings wheel, and instead of open, you click cannot moderate on this device. This gives you two options. It either gives you a QR code you can scan from an iPad or something, and it will open the moderation tool there, or it gives you a link you can send to this other device to open the moderation tool. So it's two ways of opening this moderation tool on another device. In both cases, you will need to log in with your Curipod account. So this is a safety measure, right? Now, it's only you who can open the moderation tool to your lesson. So that means that no student can scan this QR code and start to moderate your class. So these are two ways of moderating from another device. So now I want to show you some classroom management features inside Curipod. Let's exit our activity and go back to the slide editor. So if you have bilingual students or LL students in your class, there are different ways you can support them inside Curipod. So the first one you can know about is when you're in the lesson editor. I can scroll down here to translate, and then I can select the language the lesson is in and the language I want to translate it to. There are almost every language in the world here. I chose Spanish now, and then you can select the slides you want to translate and then translate. And now you see that we created a copy. So we still have the English slide here, but now we also got it in Spanish. So how I recommend using this is to create a version of your lesson where all the slides are in two languages. Then click Share, download this PDF, and send it out to all of your bilingual students, so they will be able to follow your lesson both in the other language and English at the same time. That's a great way of using this. So again, to repeat how I found this, I just scroll down on the side here to translate. Another feature you could test out is if we go to, okay, so in this case, slide 14 says AI feedback. This means that this is an AI feedback activity. This is where we got feedback. If I here go to edit activity, I can click customize. And then I see a long prompt here. And this is the AI feedback prompt we are using to tell the AI how to give feedback. And it's long and complex, and you do not need to understand all of this. But if I scroll down to the bottom here, I can add a section on my own. I can add always give feedback in English and Spanish. This will tell our AI to always give the feedback in two languages. I could also edit it to if the student asks for it. Otherwise, use only English. So in this case, the student will ask for it at the end of their writing assignment. Can I get the feedback both in English and Spanish? And it will do that. So this is just a great way for you to enable your students to get feedback in two languages. So they still get the English feedback, but they can also support themselves by reading it in the other language. So again, how did I do that? It has to be on an AI feedback activity, and then edit activity. And then we just click customize, and we scroll down to the bottom of the prompt, and we add an instruction like this. This is something you can test out, but it's a great way of giving them that option. Another bilingual support we have here in Curipod is if you click to the home page, we have, as I mentioned earlier, other customizable lessons. So we have, for instance, this full lesson where you just write in a standard and it creates a lesson on that standard. But we also have a full lesson bilingual. So with this one, you paste in a standard you want to lesson about, and then a second language. So I don't have a standard in front of me right now, so I'll just do a topic. I'll do animal habitats, and I'll do Spanish, and customize now. Build my lesson, and if I look through the slides here, I see that all the slides have text both in English and in Spanish. This actually creates a full bilingual lesson. So I'll stop there, and if you want to do an activity now, you can go into Curipod and test out either one of the classroom management tools like the moderation tool. Then you will need to start the lesson, have teachers join, then open the moderation tool and play around with it. or you can try one of our bilingual tools like translating the slides or changing the feedback to get feedback in Spanish as well. So I'll take a little break, and when you start playing the video again, I will continue. I will have two things left to show you. I will show you how you can build some activities on your own, and how to use our report page to get AI analytics on your students' writing. Okay, so I wanted to show you two things here. First, if you click Create Lesson on the top here, you can actually build out your own lessons in Curipod. So if I'll click Add New, I can set an activity type, so I can build my own AI feedback activity. Let's say I want to teach science, I could. So this AI feedback activity is the same we use inside the Monsters and Magic customizable lesson, but there we've built it out for you. Here I can build it myself, and I can say, explain photosynthesis. Then I can select one of our feedback rubrics, like the science short answer. I can also build another activity. I can build the AI whiteboard activity. So with this one, I'll give the assignment, draw the water cycle, and again, science. So I just want to show you briefly how these work. If I'll click present now, and again, to showcase them, I will just need to join as a student in another tab here. And I'm back with the teacher screen, and we're ready to start. So in the first one, my task is to explain photosynthesis. I'll do it's how a plant eats. And then I'll go back to the teacher screen, I'll stop it, and I'll click give feedback. And here it's creating the feedback, and it gives me now feedback based on how well I explained this process. So I captured the essence, but I lack a lot of details. The reason why I showed you this activity is just to show you that all of the customizable lessons in Curipod are put together of the same building blocks that you can use yourself. So we're just in the customizable lesson helping you put them together, but you can also put them together yourself. I'll show you this other activity as well, because the activity type AI whiteboard is one of my favorite ones. In this one, I gave the assignment, draw the water cycle. And I'll click start and move over to the student screen. And in this case, we do not get a text field, we get a drawing field. And the assignment was draw the water cycle. So that's what I will try to do. So I will start by drawing some sort of mountain here. Then I will draw an ocean. And then I will draw and some clouds, then some water evaporating and some water raining. And then I will try to add some arrows here to show the direction of the flow. And then when I'm finished, I'll click submit. We'll go back to the teacher screen here. We stop the activity and we can click give feedback. And this works essentially in the same way. It reads the student work and it gives feedback on it. But in this case, it gives feedback on the drawing. So here it points out that I have not labeled anything. I could make the role of the sun a bit clearer. I could have a better show of arrows. You see, like I've only showed up and down. I've actually not shown a flow. So it gives all the students feedback on this. So just to show you again how I did this, I just add a new activity, and then I add either AI feedback or AI whiteboard. And you see there are other activities as well here. There's open question, drawing, poll, and word cloud. And you can play around with this if you want to, but this is essentially a way for you to build your own lessons. But you can also just use our customizable lessons, which has a great variety to them. The last thing I wanted to show you is the report page. So if you click on the report page, you can get the report of all the writing you've done, all the assignments you've done so far with your students. So I'll enter them. Let me see if I can find someone with some results for you to see as an example. This one, I think, has something. Fantastic. So what can we notice about this page? So first of all, in the summary page, we see the student participation overall and in the different activities. Then we can go into activities here and see all the answers to the different activities. But I think the most important thing to show you is that you can write in the learning objective of the lesson. When you've written in that learning objective, you can press Generate Insights. What Curipod does now is that it reads all your students' answers and compares them to the learning objective and generates the most common understandings and misconceptions of your class. So we analyzed all their answers to kind of give you a class summary. And then we also do this on a student individual level to create flow and grow feedback for each student for you. So this report page is just a great way for you to analyze how much your students learned so far in this lesson. So that wraps up my PD session. If you want to, you can take some time after this to actually practice all of the things I've shown you so far. But I really hope, like if I were to give you one assignment you should work on now, is just to try to create a lesson you can use next week, or if it's in the middle of the summer when you come back, try to make something you think this is something I will try with my students. I hope you learned a lot from this session. I hope you send in any questions you might have. Make sure you get the sign-up sheet from your host so we can send you. Make sure you get the registration form from your host so we can send you your credentials and your diploma for this course. And yeah, the only thing left for me to say is good luck. I hope we meet in person as we travel around the US, meeting everyone in the classroom. We try to visit as many classrooms as we can every week. So yeah, I hope you enjoy Curipod. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We have more courses on our website. And yeah, thank you so much for joining this session. Goodbye, everyone.